want to thank you guys, first of all, for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time out, especially since it's fashion week and it's raining, and I know you guys have busy schedules, so thank you so much for just making the time to do this. It was really important for me to get us together because I feel like these conversations, if they do happen, they happen on smaller scales, and we don't really have these types of conversations as larger groups with people we don't necessarily know. And I feel like I wanted to give ourselves a platform to have it, to exchange ideas, thoughts, encourage each other, and kind of also educate other people on what happens as an influencer from our lens. So yeah, let's get started. If you guys don't know already, I'm Courtney. I have been influencing since 2012. Started full time like 2014, 2015. And I started off in natural hair. I do beauty, fashion, like I do like everything now, travel. So I've definitely expanded the verticals that I do. But it's been an amazing experience. However, I do realize that as a Black woman in the space, when you start moving from a vertical like natural hair, which is definitely about us,
yeah,
and you start moving into other spaces, sometimes you encounter different experiences. So my first question for you guys, what has your experience been like as an influencer, specifically a Black woman, afro-latina, in this space? Have you noticed anything that's kind of stood out versus being in corporate America?
So my name is Nay, and I am a part-time influencer. As far as my experience, I would definitely say it's been a learning one. I feel like in the very beginning, I didn't even know influencing was a thing. I didn't know that I wanted to influence. I actually started out doing makeup on other people, and I was afraid to put myself out there on the platform. But then I wasn't getting clients. So I was just like, I started this page. I have nothing to post. I can do my own makeup. Let me just throw my picture in there once a week. And then what I started to notice is that my photos always got way more engagement than any others of clients. Mm-hmm. And then I remember the first brand that reached out to me, I was like Googling the person's name, trying to figure out if it was a scam. I'm like, where's their LinkedIn? It was just like wild. And up until this point, I feel like my experience is just, like I said, a learning one. There's been some negatives as far as I think being tokenized, because the biggest thing that I've started to notice from brands is that a lot of times, especially when they do giftings, like they'll send products, it's like they want me to post it so that my audience can see that they cater to dark skin. But then when I go on their page, I see maybe one Black woman who's not dark skin, who's not brown skin, who you maybe might not be able to tell is really Black. So then I started to question, like, well, what is this partnership really about?
Right.
And then when it comes to deals, of course, negotiating prices is always just like a finicky thing. So my experience has definitely been a learning one. I'm trying to put myself out there more as far as learning, and so I really enjoy influencer spaces where people can actually talk about what their experience is, because I think this is still a new industry. Even though you've been doing it for so long, I think for so many people it still is really, really new.
Absolutely. Yeah. How long have you been doing it?
Since 2017,
okay.
But more seriously the end of 2018, because I was a full-time teacher as well. So it was kind of just like I said, I kind of stumbled into it. I was just throwing it up every here and then, and after a while I was just like, let me take this a little more seriously. So about 2 years now.
I mean, I can piggyback off of what she said. I definitely think there's layers to it. So it's like, one, you're a Black woman, and then being a dark skin is also another layer. For me, I kind of started off, I don't want to say modeling, but I was definitely doing, like, people were using my face for like makeup, and I would do a lot of like foundation swatches and stuff like that. And I was always the darkest person in the room, which I kind of started to see as like, wait, there are definitely people darker than me. Like, why am I the darkest person in the room every single time?
In there.
And yeah, and then when you started to think about it, you're like, wait a minute, something is going on here. And then you start having conversations with people, which they don't want you to do. And you realize, number one, you're not getting paid, or if you are getting paid, it's significantly less than other people of the same race as you, and then other people of other races, the gap is even wider. And you're like, I don't want this anymore. So I think for me, I've been very lucky to still have a full-time job, which has allowed me a lot more flexibility to just say no and really be specific with who I work with, because I mean, the differentiation it's there, and you see it, and you're like, I can't believe this is going on, and you guys are like putting me on a poster, and I'm not even getting paid. I'm not receiving any type of royalties or anything like that. And there are girls who have much less of a following, or if they have a bigger following, they may not necessarily have like a strong following, because some people have a lot of followers, but they don't necessarily have a strong like fan base or people who really listen to them and listen to what they have to say, and yet they're getting paid thousands, and I think for me that was when I was like, oh my god, everything people are saying is true. Everything Jackie Ida specifically has been saying for years is true. And you really start to see it firsthand and you're like, oh my god, this is crazy.
How long have you been?
So I made a YouTube channel in 2014 and it kind of started from there. I am a nurse. I'm a full-time nurse. And so I've never been around any type of creatives. I went to Brooklyn Tech for high school, and then I went to STEM schools for college. So I never had any creatives around me. I made a YouTube channel just to like literally engage with some type of creatives, and then from there I started having brands reach out to me. I started gaining a following. I would say I started getting serious in 2018, and that's when I saw the difference.
You just did a post where you were talking about what it's been like to be full-time, because you went full-time, last year?
Yeah, last year was, that was like my anniversary just passed.
Yeah. And you've been doing it.
Congrats.
Yeah.
1 year
Thank
full-time?
you, 1 year
Oh my
full-time,
God.
It was a roller coaster.
And I just found out you've been going since 2014
so,
too.
I started in 2014. I was like a sophomore in college. And because I was working like 3 jobs, going to school full time, I really didn't have time to like go shopping, have even time for stuff like that. And again, money was always going into my tuition and stuff like that. So like I made like thrifting work. And that was like my thing. And one of my college friends was like, why don't you, isn't blogging like a thing now? Like this is when Instagram first started too, around that time. So she's like, why don't you just like let people know how you do about it? Like this can help other like college students. So like I did it, and I started like post here and there, but I had school. Like I had too much going on that I really couldn't put too much focus on it. So it wasn't until after college, like maybe 2016, I started doing the whole blogging thing. But I didn't really see afro-latina, because I'm Afro-Latina, and then I didn't see curvy women. Like I didn't see a big representation of curvy women who are petite in the fashion industry, because I like fashion was my thing. So I majored in fashion merchandising, which is funny because I didn't even go to school for that. I ended up just being an influencer and vlogger. So when I didn't see that representation, I just got exhausted pretending like I was trying to be like the next white blogger, because I was like, oh, I need to throw these heels on. Oh, I need to be like presentable. I need to put all this makeup on. And then I'm like, well, who looks like me? Like I don't see anyone that kind of looks like me. So I started going into that, and it kind of sucks sometimes when brands only reach out for you when they want you to be the first one. Because it's like, the token one, because that's also pressure on me, because it's like, okay, yes, I want the brand to like expand, but at the same time, damn, why me? But then I have my moments where I'm like, okay, why not me? I should be paving that way. So I hit some of those when it comes to like anxiety levels. And
So my name is Tiff. I am a perfumista, entrepreneur. So it's a little bit different for me because I don't work in color and I don't work in fashion, although I am starting to kind of dive into it slightly with lifestyle. But I feel like my industry is very gender-based. Perfume in general, it comes from French, right? The French. And it's very European and white European. So to have a woman, middle-aged, talking to fragrance in that way, it's very disruptive, especially for my industry. So there's a lot that needs to be changed. Like even ambassadors, like, okay, so there's levels to it, right? We're influencers, but even the ambassadors, people who are paid to promote fragrances, like I think Zoe Kravitz, she was the first Black woman to be leading a perfume campaign in fragrance. Like,
really?
yeah,
that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done still in this industry. Like it's 2020, and she's the first.
that's crazy.
Of all the fragrances ever created. So yeah, I experienced the same things, but it's just different.
Yeah.
So I started doing vlogging in 2016, like officially. It was just like an online diary kind of for me, and then like one of my friends was like, you should really like promote this, like you should do it on social media. And I had transferred high schools, so I already had a pretty big following because I like just knew a lot of people from school. So yeah, that's kind of where it started. And simultaneously, a lot of my friends were getting into photography, so I just started like posting, you know, on social media and like using those photos to like go with each blog post.
Right.
So that's kind of how it started for me. And then in 2017 is when it was like, okay, cool. So I'm gonna like do some natural hair stuff, like work with different brands. Even Body Works was actually the first brand I ever worked with, and they're just like so amazing. But so I started doing that, and I mean, I didn't really like. I was just getting like, you know, products and stuff. So I was like, okay, cool, this is cool. Like I'm just talking about hair, and I had like not big chop, but I had started cutting out all of my relaxer and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I transitioned. And I went full time when I moved to New York in September 2019. So full time now, but up until that point, I was working like as a server. You know, like just I graduated college and didn't really know what direction my life was going to be going in. So I was serving and bartending and doing all that kind of stuff because I've never really wanted to work in corporate. Like, it's just not my
same
it's not my vibe. I like, even, you know, graduating college, everybody was like, oh, like, you know, I definitely want to be working in an office. I definitely want to, that's never been my dream. Like, never. So from 10 years old to now, like, I was like, okay, I'm going to be writing. I'm going to be working in media. I'm going to be doing something in media. But I hold a lot of privilege in this community. I'm light skinned, you know, like, I don't face a lot of the challenges that darker women do face. So that's something that I acknowledge whenever I have these conversations, because in a room full of white women, you know, like, sure, I might be the blackest one, but when it comes to this community, like, I have to give my platform to other women who, you know, can speak to the real challenges that we face every day. So that's kind of where I kind of started getting more radical with my posts and like being like, you know, we need to really step up as a community and lift each other up and give our sisters these platforms, because again, like, when you hold a certain privilege, the only right thing to do with that privilege is to pass the mic.
It's so crazy that she even said that, because that was something I wanted to dive into a little bit later on, but I feel like that's important to acknowledge, because I think that being that Black women are not a monolith and we're all so different, but at the same time we do end up being the token sometimes, and we do have privilege at some times, and how do we use where we are and, you know, in the space that we occupy, how do we use that to advocate and push for other women who don't necessarily look like us or have the same privilege that we have. So I'm actually glad that you mentioned that, because I realized that even though I am, you know, I'm brown skin or light skin, however, depends on how you're looking at me and what light. I do realize that even from a brand perspective, sometimes I am just the Black woman, but sometimes I am the Black woman with a looser curl at times, but sometimes I am the tightest curl in a campaign. So for me, it's important that I say, you know, I suggest someone who is of darker complexion or who has a tighter curl.
I always say, like, if you're using me to check off your black box, go find someone else.
Yeah.
Like, please, go find someone else, because I'm not the one.
Same.
First of all, I'm not the one, just period. That's just like, if you have, you know, like 5 white girls, 1 Latina woman, and then me as your Black woman, girl, bye. Please get me out of here. Like, I will, like, on set, be like, where are the Black women? Like, where's your representation?
So with all of us having the experience to be on set, have you ever spoken up? So Erin, you said that you did. Have you ever had the, or even felt the need to speak up in a room? Because I know I really never had that opportunity. Usually when I'm on set, there is a decent range of representation, and I think I've been blessed enough to actually be in those situations where I never feel like I have to be like, but I've been in event rooms where I felt the need, you know, to say something or just bring someone. So let's talk about maybe an experience that you might have had, or something where you did feel the need to speak up and advocate for other women.
I think for me it was it was probably for when I was doing with Thrive, the shaver Thrive, but it was through a third party that they focused on like mental health and stuff like that. And they had representation on the Instagram, like they had, you know, their flow and their diversity, which was great. That's why I always check brands. Like, if you don't have representation, then no. I'm not gonna do it. So they had the representation, and like I go on set, and I was the last girl to like, I was the last slot, like the last girl to do it, because my scene was a little bit longer. So I get there, and my hair is, you know, in box braids. But I was like, okay, they gotta have a hairstylist there. They can just put my baby hair down. But I brought just in case. And so I sat down in hair, and the guy, who was, you know, a white guy, he goes, I don't think I need to do anything to your hair. And I'm like, you don't have edge control? What's that? I was like, all right, do you have a bathroom? Like, I just need to go just lay my baby hairs down. I was like, I'm not even gonna have this conversation with you, because that's just, it's not even your fault. Right. So like after I was done with the shoot and everything was done for, like after they paid me, of course, I told them, I was like, hey, and just an FYI for future, have representation for all hair when you book a hairstylist. I'm not saying what preference, or, you know, I'm not gonna go into details with that, but just like, if you have a model that just doesn't have the same hair as you and the same hair texture, make sure that hairstylist just has everything that they can work with. That was only my encounter with that. But like for events wise, the minute I don't see another sister, hi, oh, free back, thank you, and I'm leaving. Like, I'm not even going to entertain it, and I'm not going to even bother talking with you, because that's so sad.
I've definitely been there with having issues with my hair. So it's gotten to the point, like, I feel like every single time I'm on set, I realize, like, I think the very last campaign I did, I traced in my eyebrows a little bit. Like, I gave them, like, a little outline. And she was appreciative for it, because I know eyebrows can be difficult for me. You know, not every makeup artist knows how you like your eyebrows. But it was more so, it had nothing to do with her. It was more so, like, I'm tired of having to go fix myself all the time. When it comes to, my foundation, I have flashback, I look ghost white, my edges aren't laid. Like, it's just too many instances where I've had to fix myself. So now I ask a ton of questions before I even get there. And I started to feel like, am I a diva? And I was like, no. Because you will have me out here looking like I'm crazy.
And
that's the no-no. That's a
no-no.
no-no.
When white influencers bombard them with all these questions.
Yeah.
You know, like, and maybe they don't have to ask those questions because they know that they're going to be taken care of regardless. But as soon as a black woman does it, you're either doing too much, you're an angry black woman, and like you're asking for a bare minimum for what I need to know if I need to do myself before I come to the shoot, because I'm not going to be on camera looking crazy. Like, if I need to take care of myself or like do something beforehand, that's something, like, I always tell people whenever they're like, oh, am I doing too much? No, you're not doing too much. You're literally asking for the bare minimum. You're asking, like, them to adhere to your standards.
I totally can. I think for me, I relate to what you guys are saying. It's even trickier, like, again, to bring up the skin color. But when you're dark skin, it's like an added layer again, because it's like, all right, they definitely, it's not even a possibility. Like, they don't know how to do my makeup. So every time I come, I'm already ready to go, ready to shoot. I bring my own photographer, because I don't have time. Like, if you need me to post this on my Instagram and I don't like the photos that your photographer took, I'm not posting it. Because then it's going to perform, it's not going to perform well. Because it's not going to look up to par with what I normally post. And then I might possibly, you know, lose other brand deals or lose a future partnership with you, which I at that point probably don't want anymore, but just in case. So I always come like beyond prepared. Like, I literally have a bag full of stuff, and I'm ready to go. I don't even, like, they can do my makeup, but they're always like, oh, she's already done. I'm like, yeah.
Just to avoid it.
Yeah, because like, I know you weren't gonna do it properly. And in regards to, I have yet to not, unless I'm in a room with, this is her, like, every time I'm in a room with her, then it's like me and her are usually like the darkest people in the room. But other than that, I've never been in a room where anyone was darker than me. And it's crazy, because I'm also African, and I have a family full of people that are darker than me. So it's like just kind of embarrassing. Like, I kind of feel like if my family saw this, they'd be like, Esther, like, this is supposed to be a makeup company and they don't have our shades, like, you know. So It's really hard. It's definitely a challenge, and I'm also a micro influencer that's growing. So it's like you're trying not to burn bridges and like sever ties, but you're just kind of fed up.
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, I didn't leave my house for this. Like I did not leave my house to be uncomfortable, to have to like sit with my legs crossed, have no one to talk to, or like just fake it the whole time. And then people are in rooms where literally a dozen people look like them, and I'm like, I don't understand how this is even allowed in 2020. I don't understand how you expect me to sell this product when I can't even invite my my fans to a meet and greet, and they'll see other people like them. Like,
I think for me, I've never been on a shoot where I didn't do my own makeup.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or where I haven't had to do the base or the foundation.
Right,
and when you said, like, they'll be like, oh, you're perfect and ready. Like, for me, it's been, I'll come, maybe my makeup isn't done. They're like, your skin is so gorgeous. It's good the way it is. And it's just like, you just don't got my foundation shade. Like, you could just let me know. It's okay. Let me go in my bag and I'll pull mine out.
Just said that,
And then also, usually when I've shot, I've either been the last one, so I'm usually by myself. So I don't get to see, like, who else is there. And I think that there was one time where I did a campaign, and they told me that there wasn't like a huge budget, and so I worked with them because I like the brand. When I saw someone else that was there, I was just like, I know she's getting a check, because she wasn't just there alone. She was with her manager and like other people. So in my mind, it's just like, how do you pitch these ideas for these campaigns or for these shoots when you're attracting different people, when you're booking different people? And then too, a lot of times the reasons why shoots aren't as diverse or events aren't as diverse is because the people who plan it also are not diverse. And it starts from the behind the scenes. And I've really learned that because I went from teaching full time to now I work for Mente Cosmetics as their social media manager and consultant. So from being on the behind the scenes and seeing like it's a room full of black women and women of color are always first in our conversations, but that's because the brand and how they sell their products and how they represent themselves is also reflective of who works there. So then that same thing applies when it comes to brands who only have white people. Of course, we're not first in their minds, and that's the issue, is that the work doesn't just start on set. The work starts with who you hire to work for your company. And same for like events. I've gone to my very first like really big event. What I always notice is that you always see the people of color kind of just, they find each other.
And we always
We find each other because it's like
food. That is very true.
Unspoken solidarity. I'm just like, you can't be here together. Okay,
a hint of curl. I just splash a curl.
Literally, whenever I go to like predominantly white events and I like am with my people, I'm always like, all right, we're the diversity circle. So and it's funny because it's like, the photographers always want to. I remember we were at one event. We were all in a group. We were like dancing. We were having a good time, and like the whole rest of the event was white. Literally, there was maybe like 7 of us or so, like that were like people of color.
Some cameras came
quick, like so. They were like, all right, our event looks diverse. Like, this is a moment. So we got to the point. It got to the point where it was like, okay, y'all are doing it excessively now. You're doing too much because like y'all know this is not the representation. And on top of that, like I always have I just had this conversation with a white woman who I work with the brand, but I told her, I was like, there's a difference between white people and people who happen to be white. People who happen to be white are about the cause. They're about inclusion. They're about, okay, maybe I don't know, but tell me, and I am open to that versus people who don't care. But I told her, I was like, it's not my responsibility as a person of color to educate you that this is how this should be. And this is how the room needs to look. It should be natural, and it should be, because beauty is a spectrum. And if you're not willing to adhere to that spectrum, then I don't need to be here, because this doesn't represent anything that I believe in. And she was saying like, that's really interesting. I've never heard that perspective before, in terms of it not being your responsibility, because I always feel like or she said that she feels like that people of color like always are willing to educate, and it's like it's not that I'm not willing to. I'm always willing to, but it's not my responsibility. To be like to be your consultant for diversity. You should do your homework, and also not do it as a trend and have this be so like diversity and inclusion, industry-based inclusion also is a scam. Because literally they'll sit there and be like, okay, like we have this black person and this person of color, this Middle Eastern woman, we have this, this, but like the behind the scenes, everyone's white.
Mhm.
And if you don't start from behind the scenes and start getting people in the rooms who are making the decisions, this is going to continue.
Yep.
And diversity and inclusion is going to continue to be a trend.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, just to piggyback off of what you said, I think it's so important that women of lighter tones are able to speak out, because I feel like sometimes we're just so lucky to be in the room, and it's not that we don't want to speak out. It's just like I barely made the cut, you know what I mean? And I don't,
Yeah.
I
You have to
don't
tread
know how
lightly
to.
sometimes,
Right, exactly.
yeah.
I don't know how to, and I think like when I do speak, just because of my skin tone, it just automatically sounds more aggressive.
Right.
And anything I say, literally, it just sounds like I'm angry, and it's like, no, I'm actually speaking in a very matter-of-fact
Right.
way, but you just proceeded to think that it was anger.
Mhm.
And I think it also goes back to what you said about, like, now you're behind the scenes and you have a chance to hire and, you know, make the face of your campaigns more diverse. And I think it goes back to just, like, not just hiring your friends. Not saying that, like, anyone does that, but, like, I do notice sometimes when you do put a woman of color behind the scenes, they're just so, like, interested in, like, bringing their friends into the team and not necessarily, like, like, diversifying that campaign. And then it's like, you'll see, like, the same, like, 5 girls, the faces of everything. And I'm like, okay, this is great. So now when, like, brands who maybe aren't from New York, they come to New York and they're looking for New York influencers, they tend to go for the same, like, 5, 6 girls. And everyone else is just like, okay, well, you know, I'm here too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't give it, in that sense, it's also about, like, diversitying your diversity. Because in addition, those cliques don't tend to be the most diverse.
Right.
Sometimes they just might not even necessarily be friends. They might just aesthetically look good together.
Yeah.
Just like have similar curl patterns or whatnot, and it just works out. But yeah, I think it is also about diversifying diversity. So.
Yeah.
That's so true. And it's like, I had this conversation with someone about, somebody had mentioned on one of Amanda Seale's posts that she compensates for her lack of melanin by how loud she is. And like, for me that's triggering, because I'm like, oh, man, like, you know, I will always be, like, use my privilege. Like,
Right.
I am black, I am Latina, I am also mixed with white, but like, when I'm in a room of white people and we're having this conversation, I'm always gonna be the loudest one, because like you said, you know, like, and that's so messed up, you know, for you to feel like you can't speak your mind because you feel like you're gonna burn a bridge, you feel like you're gonna like, you know, like the brand's not gonna want to work with you again because you're holding them to a standard. And so like I'm glad you said that, because I will always do that. Like, I'm always gonna be the one to be like, no, this needs to be better.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, I mean, if you're gonna if this is gonna burn a bridge because I'm giving you a suggestion about how you can better your brand,
Then
I don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's not something that falls in line with my morals and
Right.
standards, and I don't need to be here.
Yeah.
And I think even in this conversation, there's like a little, like I'm thinking of, I have friends who are also influencers who are brown skin or more medium skin. And what I get from them is, well, you know, you're lucky because you're dark skin and like, that's like a big thing now. So like, you're going to get a lot of deals. Like, I'm just like average, right? Like, so there's this still where it's
I've
just
felt
like,
that way
there's
before.
light skin, and it's real. There's like the light skin privilege in that like you are light skin, you are closer to white. So like, you're more acceptable because you're more ambiguous as a black woman. Then with dark skin, it's just like, it's going to make a bang. Like, they're going to look like they're super diverse. And then there's a whole gap in the middle. And I think the biggest thing is that, like you said, beauty is a spectrum. Skin tone is a spectrum. We can have white influencers who are plus size, who are male. I have not seen one, like, million subscriber, million follower, black male MUA yet. Like, I have yet to see it, right? So, like, there's a spectrum of us. And yet, it's either you go for really light and they get the privilege, you go for really dark, you don't pay them their worth, and then whoever's in the middle, if we find you, will like take you because you have like a following. And I think it's super important, like whenever I work with brands, literally I always send a list of at least 5 influencers that they could work with, and I try my best to make it like a spectrum and not just my friends. Like we hosted an event that Esther came to, like Content and Combos, where we have like 18 girls, and I sent like a whole deck to a brand of just like, here's 18 different people, different followings, different curl patterns, different sizes, different skin tones. Like, it's not just about hitting your light, hitting your dark, maybe throwing in a medium. It's just like, people are different, so you need to represent people.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think that applies more to like the makeup and the hair industry in terms of like the skin tone, and like they are looking for darker skin. As someone who's like dabbled into home decor, they don't want a dark skinned girl as the cover of like period, like period.
Wow.
Like it's not even like, it's like no, because I mean think about it. In New York, what are we advertising to if you're a furniture company? You're probably advertising to like the Brooklyn scene, which is 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a more mixed crowd. If you have a racially ambiguous girl, she hits all bases.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you have a dark-skinned girl that's like, that's like the old face of Brooklyn, basically. You're trying to really advertise that. It doesn't fit the modern trend of what Brooklyn is today. Right. And so, like, it was such a fight. I mean, I know I was underpaid. Without a doubt, I was underpaid. At that point, I was doing them a favor with some of the brands that I worked with when I was doing, like, my room transformation and just some upcoming campaigns I have. But, yeah, so when you delve into lifestyle, they don't want dark skin at all. Like, it's really sad, but, like, they just don't even see us as like homeowners or people that have like really nice apartments. They don't even see us as that.
That I know is true because as I've been I didn't think about it that way, but as I've been looking for different brands to work with because we moved into our apartment, and so I'll go into the tag photos of a brand and just to explore the type of furniture they have and how people have put it together. But now that you brought that to top of mind, I think about it, I'm like, it's usually either a dog on a sofa or a white woman.
Right.
It's very rarely.
Yeah,
it's very rarely
black
women,
all,
black
period.
men, even Latina. It's very. I never thought about that because it's just something I'm really just now getting into, and I haven't thought about that. But that is very true.
Humbling.
Yeah,
because you'll see a lot more progression in the makeup community. I know we have a long way to go, but there's some type of progression, and then you go to other industries and you realize they are decades behind. I mean, literally decades.
Yeah.
There are furniture companies, not a single model, not a single person in front of the camera, behind the camera is black. Not even, forget mixed, black, period.
It's funny.
And it's like, when we're speaking, specifically about hair, it's funny because whenever, I wear my hair straight, I had this conversation, I have a lot of conversations. But I was gonna say, a lot of the times in my photos, even in engagement, whenever I wear my hair straight, I get way more engagement.
Not me.
And I literally, I had this conversation with someone who I used to work with, and he was insulting me, but whatever, he said what he said, and was basically saying, you're one flat iron away from being white.
Oh no.
So
hurt me.
It hurts my feelings. Yeah, it hurts my feelings a lot of the times when my straight hair photos do better because I'm like, okay, so y'all want me to just wear my hair straight and be as close to white as possible.
Or do they like it that you've changed?
I mean, yes, but it's like significantly more engagement than.
I've never thought about it that way because people actually don't like my hair straight, mostly because I've grown my audience because of natural hair.
Yeah.
So when my hair is straight, it'll be like maybe the first photo, but if I give them any more than one photo of my hair straight, they don't care.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that for you that hurts your feelings. It hurts my feelings. They don't like it. I'm like, can I change? Like you said, can I change?
Yeah.
Can I switch it up? And they're just like, no. Mm-mm.
Go to my least favorite combo.
Yeah.
So there are some times where I always feel like I am that token person in the room, but it's like when you step into it, you kind of just feel like a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure even just to be like, well, I'm here.
And you have to represent. Do you feel the weight of representing all of the black women in the whole world?
Absolutely.
You speak for everyone.
For sure, because there, just to generalize, but there are places in America where people have never even seen or met a black woman or a black person.
My mom was just talking
So
about
there's
that.
a lot of work that still needs to be done. But it's like I accepted the challenge. You know what I mean? I feel comfortable going into these places, and sometimes I am the only black person in the room, but that's okay because we have to be the change that we all
Want to
speak
be?
about.
Yeah.
And I feel really privileged in that sense too. You were talking about being privileged. Okay, well I'm here, so let's start to make these changes, and let me bring my plus. It's funny you said bringing your plus one. I'm going to an event today where I am bringing a plus one. My mom, because even just to have she has long black dreads, she is very different, and I know she will be the only person like that in the room. So it's important, it's important to kind of just take those small steps and kind of accept the responsibility of like being different, and it's okay. I started in 2016, so this experience is all very, very new for me. I just recently started getting invited to events, and even more so now that I signed with Sephora. So Sephora, you all know Sephora, global brand, which has tons of global brands underneath them. So now I'm starting to go into these rooms that, ladies are also familiar with. And have I spoken up yet about like being the only Black or the couple of Blacks? No, not yet, because I haven't been in this scene enough to kind of like get my bearings and kind of be like, okay, well, you know what, today I'm going to an event and I know I'm going to be the only Black person. So for me, I just don't know, because I don't know the brands well enough just yet. But I think I would be fearless if I were super uncomfortable and be like, well, girl, like, you invited me. Why didn't you invite me? Like, what's going on here? I think I definitely would.
I think one way that we kind of work around like not being the only Black, we share information. Like, hey, girl, such and such is doing an event. Here's the RSVP. Go ahead. So there's a lot of that. So I'm always like,
always do that.
We bring the crowd. I'm not asking the brand like, why did you invite us? Here's this event. We all gonna sign up, and that's an solution.
And that's exactly
we're here.
Unless like they specifically say don't pass this invitation out.
They all say that. It's all non-transferable.
I'm like,
I don't get trouble for that, but like, I definitely share.
I like to bring my mom too as my plus one, because she has like a beautiful fro. Like, and I always tell her, because she'll have those days where she's like, oh, should I push it back? I'm like, you better let that fro go, because you're coming to an event and we're probably going to be the only ones there with their diverse hair. So let's just make them proud. But yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I'm gonna keep doing that too.
Spread the word.
Yeah.